Hello everybody, I am going to start yet another session in the subject of engineering mechanics. The topic being the simple stresses and strains. This is the 7th in the series of this chapter, that is simple stresses and strains. Now we will be looking into the another concept, that is stresses varying in different sections, that is forces applied on different sections. Before that, let us have a just quick recap of the things what we have done, so that we can move further easily. Here in this simple stresses and strains, we have seen what are stresses, what are strains, and what is Hooke's law, and how stresses and strains are related. That is, stress by strain is constant. Stress is proportional to strain within the elastic limit. So stress by strain is equal to some constant, that is modulus of elasticity. Now, since we have seen stress strain relationship, that is stress by strain is equal to modulus of elasticity E, we have found out stress, that is load by area, strain, that is change in length by original length, and also delta L is equal to PL by AE by knowing the modulus of elasticity. We have done some problems based on those formulae, those equations, and also we have seen what are different types of stresses, different types of strains, and stresses and strains are bodies which have varying cross sections. So those such examples we have seen in our earlier classes, and also we have seen something called as concept of working stress and factor of safety. This any body has some its own limitations, or in fact limits. That is, whenever a body is stretched beyond its elastic limit, it undergoes inelastic deformation, and it doesn't obey the Hooke's law, that is stress is not proportional to strain. There will be strain hardening, and also with a small increase in stress there will be a lot of strain. So we have seen what is the ultimate stress, what is the yield stress, such things. So when we work on some material, we don't work up to their full strength, that is the ultimate strength, or the ultimate strength. So we use something called as working stress, that is ultimate stress divided by some factor of safety, or yield stress divided by factor of safety, we will get the working stress. And we have seen the bars with varying cross sections. They are subjected to only one type of load from the ends. Then only due to the difference in cross sectional area and lengths, they have different stresses and strains. The force being constant, stress will be equal to force by area of that particular portion. So here if you see, stress in the first portion will be P by A1, in the second portion it will be P by A2, in the third portion it will be P by A3. So similarly, first portion change in length, delta L1 will be PL1 by A1E. So similarly we have seen such delta L1 is equal to PL1 by A1E, delta L2, delta L3. So total elongation will be there. So in such type of problems, we see that the force is constant, and because the sections are having same material, are made up of same material, they have the same modulus of elasticity. So their elastic property will be same. So P by E will be constant, P by E will be constant, and L1 by A1, L2 by A2, such thing will be there. P by E into L1 by A1 plus L2 by A2 plus L3 by A3 and so on will be the total elongation. We have seen some problems regarding this type of material, this type of bodies. So we have seen some other important principle, that is principle of superposition. That is, whenever we think that some loads act along the axis, if they have some effect, if those loads, if they are separated and they act separately, then the effect will be corresponding to that particular load. So if we add all those effects, then it will be same as the effect of the all forces acting on the body. That is the concept. So we have seen an example that 150 kilonewton load is applied on a bar, and then for the same bar with the same area and same length, we have treated that 150 as two parts, that is 150. Then we have seen the results and we have added those results. Then the result, added up results and the initial result were same. So it proves that the method of principle of superposition is very handy in working out the problems which have the loading along the same axial line. So we can add two loads which act along the same axis, then the effect will be same. Instead of a single load, even if we divide that load into two parts, then also the effect will be same. That is the principle of superposition, which is a very good handy principle for generally civil engineers when they work with different types of loads. And next we have come to the concept of free body diagrams. That is, whenever till now we have seen the loads which are only at the ends, that is ends of the body, either they may be tensile or compressive. Sometimes it may be possible that some loads may act at intermediate points, intermediate sections of the structure. Then the structure, when the entire structure is in equilibrium, then the separate components of the structure also should be in the state of equilibrium. Therefore, we take that concept and we divide the body into separate parts so that we can see the effect of loads on those components or parts. For that, we have seen a rod of length L which is subjected to 4 loads of P1, P2, P3 and P4. P3 and P4 are acting at between the section BC. The entire length of the rod is divided into 3 portions, AB, BC and CD. So AB portion is being pulled by P1 and CD portion is pulled by P2. In between there are 2 other forces, P3 and P4, which we have not dealt earlier. Because there are 4 forces, as the entire bar, entire structure, we can say this. Let us consider this entire bar as full structure. So full structure is in the state of equilibrium. So some of the forces, because they are acting along the same plane, and also along the same axis, they should be, for equilibrium, sigma h should be equal to 0. Therefore, P1 plus P4 should be equal to P3 plus P2. That is, forces going towards left should be equal to the forces going towards the right, or sigma h is equal to 0. So therefore, P1 plus P4, P1 and P4 are acting towards left, and P2 and P3 are acting towards right. They should be equal. That is, they make the body, to bring the body to the state of equilibrium. To find the free body diagrams, that is, free body diagrams, we are separating the free bodies from the entire structure. That is, we are separating the parts and we are seeing their equilibrium conditions. So here, if we remove this part AB, separating each portion, so it is separate this part AB, then if we see, P1 is acting towards its left. So for the equilibrium, there should be some other P1 which is acting towards the right at the other end, so that P1 and P1 they get balanced because they are equal and opposite. Therefore, this, when there is some P1, you know, that is in this, at the left edge P1 is acting. Therefore, at the right edge also there should be P1. That we have seen P1 is equal to, here we have seen P1 plus P4 is equal to P2 plus P3 plus P4. So P1 should be equal to P2 plus P3 minus P4. Therefore, this P1 is equal to P2 plus P3 minus P4. Then only they are in equilibrium. So this P1 should be equal to P1 or P2 plus P3 minus P4. Similarly, if we take the middle portion, this portion is acted upon by, if we separate this portion, suppose somewhere here, P1 is pulling and P3 is pushing. Both are acting along the same axial line. So minus P1 plus P3 is acting here in this side, on this side, and on this side it should be equal. So it should be equal to minus P1 plus P3 or minus P4 plus P2. They should be equal. Similarly, on the right, extreme right side, this portion is being pulled by P2 force. So if we consider this portion is cut here, if there is P2, some internal force, some P2 should be there to give the equilibrium. Therefore, the P2 should be equal to P2 or it should be P1 plus P4 minus P3. So that is how the forces on each component are established. So we find out what are the different forces acting on each part. So by knowing what is the force acting on each part, by knowing their areas, by knowing their lengths, we can find out the stresses and strains or changes in length. Therefore, since this body constitutes three portions, if you want total change, so total change delta L will be equal to delta L1 plus delta L2 plus delta L3. That is changes in all the three portions. Sometimes these portions may have different forces. That is, there need not be always tensile or compression. Some portions may have tensile forces, some portions may have compressive forces. So when tensile forces act, they tend to elongate. When compressive forces act, they tend to compress and decrease their length. Therefore, we should see on each body whether the forces are compressive or tensile. Then accordingly we will find out whether there is the extension or compression of that small component. So by adding all those algebraically, by adding all those changes in length algebraically, we get total change in length. Suppose delta L is equal to delta L1 plus L2 plus delta L2 plus delta L3. Delta L2 may be, if it is compressive, it is subjected to compressive force, then it will be minus delta L2. So this is how we calculate the changes in length. Thus, showing each portion separately with appropriate forces which are in equilibrium constitute the free body diagram. That is the concept of free body diagram. So we have seen an example where this body has a length of 1.2 meters, that is 1200 mm. Each section is, each portion is 300, 500 and 400 mm. So the left portion is AB is 300, BC is 500 and CD is 400, and they are pulled by two forces of 100 kilonewtons here and 150 kilonewtons here. 50 and 100 kilonewtons are acting here. So let us see whether they are in the state of equilibrium or not. The left going forces are forces moving towards left are 100 and 100, 200. So towards right are 150 and 50. So 200 and 200 they got balanced. So this body is in equilibrium. Therefore, all the components should be equal in the state of equilibrium. Therefore, we remove this portion AB. If we remove this portion AB, we have a 100 kilonewton force which is moving towards the left. That is, the body is being pulled by 100 kilonewtons to one side. So for the equilibrium, some other force should pull the body to the other side. So there should be equal and opposite force for the equilibrium. Therefore, there should be another 100 force towards right. Or if we see other forces here, this is 50 towards right and 150 towards right, that is 200 towards right and 100 towards left. So that is also equal to 100 kilonewtons. Therefore, we have established what is the amount of load acting on the first portion of the structure. Therefore, if we know L1 is equal to 300, A1 is equal to 100 mm square, P1, that is the load in the first portion. P is not constant. In earlier cases we have seen that P is constant throughout the body, but here P is not constant, and that for that portion it is separate. So P1 is acting, A1 is different, L1 is different, only E is constant because the entire material is made up of the same, and the entire structure is made up of same material. Therefore, stress 1 is equal to P1 by A1, 100,000 newtons by 100, we got 1000 Newton per mm square. Similarly, delta L1 is equal to PL by P1 L1 by A1 L1. That is, we have multiplied, we got 1.5 mm. Similarly, we have seen for the second one as delta L2 is 1.25 and force is tensile. Here also in the first case it is tensile. In the second case also it is tensile. Here at the middle portion we have seen two forces, that is 100 is towards left and 50 is towards left, and 150 is towards right and 100 is towards left. So total is 50. Here it is minus 50, here it is plus 50. So it is pulling the body. Therefore, there will be automatically some elongation. So delta L2 is also plus 1.25. In the third portion, it is evident that it is obvious from the figure that it is being pulled by 150 kilonewtons. So there should be some balancing force of 150 kilonewtons opposite to it. So both forces are pulling this body. Therefore, tensile stress is developed. Therefore, strain will be tensile strain. That is, there will be elongation. Similarly, we have seen that for the third also it is 3.75 mm. Therefore, total elongation is 1.5 plus 1.25 plus 3.75. All are in tensile state. So entire bar and all the parts are getting elongated. So total bar is getting elongated. We have seen some other problem, that is problem number 2. Here we have some 20 kilonewtons to the left, and at the right edge we have 40 kilonewtons, and in the middle portion we have 60 and 80 kilonewtons forces. So we know how to check the equilibrium. So initially we are checking equilibrium. 20 plus 80 should be equal to 60 plus 40, that is 100 is equal to 100. They are balancing, so they are in the state of equilibrium. We are separating this portion. So this portion is having some 20 kilonewtons load force which is pulling the body. Therefore some other force, some equilibrium force will be also 20, that is 60 minus 80 plus 40 will be equal to 20 plus 20. If it is minus 20, then the entire body is subjected to 20 kilonewtons of tensile load. Here length is 200 mm, area is 200 mm square, tensile load is 20 kilonewtons. So we have found out stress in that particular portion is 200 by 200, 20,000 by 200, that is 100 Newton per mm square, and delta L1 is equal to P1 L1 by A1 E1, because except E, area is constant and E is also constant. Therefore only the stress is changing. So 20,000 into 200 divided by 200 into 2 into 10 to the power 5, we get 0.1 mm elongation. And if we see the second portion, here if we see 20 is pulling and 60 is pushing. If you cut somewhere here, to the extreme left we have 20 kilonewtons which is pulling the body and 60 kilonewtons which is pushing the body. So altogether it is 40 kilonewtons which is pushing the body. That is why minus 20 plus 60 or minus 80 plus 40. So they are both are here 40, it is towards right, here 40 towards left. So these forces are pushing the body. That means there will be some compression. The middle portion is subjected to compression. Therefore we will find out stress is P2, that is 40 by A2, 40,000 by 200 gives you 200 Newton per mm square, which is compressive stress. Therefore the change in length delta L1 L2 will be equal to delta L2 is equal to P2 L2 by A2E. Therefore we get 6 mm compression. Similarly in the third portion it is obvious, that is at the extreme right it is 40 kilonewtons which is pulling. Therefore to balance it there should be some other pulling force to the left at 40 kilonewtons. So it will be subjected to 40 kilonewtons tensile load, the third portion, the right extreme portion. Therefore knowing length, area, we are finding the stress on the third portion is equal to 40,000 by 200, that is 200 Newton per mm square. Delta L3 is P3 L3 by A3E, we will get 4 mm. So here 4 mm and 1 mm are elongation, 6 mm is compression. So finally the compression is more, so finally it comes to 1 mm compression. Total body is, when we measure, total body is having the 1 mm compression, that is the final length of the body will be 99.9 mm final length. That is, if we measure, the initial length was 200 mm, finally after the application of load we see that the length will be 1199.9 mm. Now we will have a different problem. So this is the third problem. in body which is subjected to variable forces at different sections. So now, till now, that in those earlier two problems we have taken the uniform cross section. Now we will say we will take variable cross sections, and also the loads are different at different sections. So a round bar of 1.5 meters length has three equal portions. That is 500, 500 and 500 portions, and cross sections having the diameters of 80 mm, 60 mm and 40 mm. The cross sectional diameters are given as 80, 60 and 40 respectively from the left hand. The loads are as shown in the figure. Find the stresses in each portion and total elevation of the bar. Given that E is 2 into 10 to the power 5 megapascals or Newton per mm square. Here is the problem. That is, each section has length of 500 mm and each diameter is 80, 60 and 40. This is 80, this is 60 and this is 40. The loads are 40 kilonewtons at left hand and 60 kilonewtons which is compressive at the right hand, and also in between there are $50 and $50 going towards right. That is, if we add up these forces, whether they are in equilibrium or not, let us check them out. The left moving forces are 40 plus 60, the right moving forces are 50 and 50. So 100 and 100, they are in the state of equilibrium. So let us separate each portion. This is the first portion, let us say AB. So AB has length of 500 and diameter of 80 mm. So here if we see, it is subjected to 40 kilonewtons. So if we separate this portion here, so this is 40. So balancing force should be 40. But we will also check. It is 100 minus 60. That is also 40. Here, the first section is, as we see, this 40 forces pulling. So the balancing force also will be pulling the body. Otherwise, it will not be in the state of equilibrium. If both forces are in the same direction, the body tends to move. So to keep it in equilibrium, there should be equal and opposite forces. So it is in the opposite direction. The 40 should be opposite in this edge. That is at B, it should be towards right. If it is towards left, at B it should be towards right to keep that particular component in equilibrium condition. Therefore, this 40 and this is another 40, that is 50 plus 50 minus 60, 100 kilonewtons towards right. So this particular component is under tensile load. L is 500, L1 is 500, A1 is pi d square by 4, D1 square by 4, that is pi into 80 square by 4. So if we calculate that, it will come up to 5026.55 mm square. That is the area of the first portion. So it is some shaft like thing with having a different diameters. We know P1, the first portion is subjected to 40 kilonewton force. Therefore, stress in the first portion AB is, stress 1 is equal to P1 by A1, that is 40,000 by 5026.55. So it is 7.96 Newton per mm square. Very small load, small stress is there. That is, here the area is very high, that is 5026. So therefore we are getting very small stress. We know as area increases, stress decreases because they are inversely proportionate. Stress is force by area, so as they are inversely proportionate, so as area increases, stress decreases. As force increases, stress increases because they are directly proportionate. Delta L1 is equal to P1 L1 by A1 E1. So P1 is 40,000 into 500 is length and 526.55 is area into E is 2 into 10 to the power 5. So it is 0.2 0.0199 mm, almost 0.2 mm, let us say. So in the second portion, if we look here in this figure, the second portion, if we cut this portion, one is 40 kilonewtons to the left and other is 50 kilonewtons to the right. That means second portion is subjected to a compressive force of 10 kilonewtons. Here if we see minus 40 plus 50, that is plus 10. Here also it is minus 60 plus 50, that is minus 10. That is, it is moving towards left. It is moving at the left edge, it is moving towards right. So here they are compressed. They are subjected to compression of 10 mm. That is, this figure has the compressive force of 10 kilonewtons. Therefore, if you see L2 is 500, as we know, they are equal proportions in the full length of 1.5 mm, 1.5 meters. A2 is 60 mm. The diameter 2 is 60 mm. So pi d square by 4 is pi into 60 square by 4, that is 2827.43 mm square. That is 2827.43 mm square. Force is very small, that is 10 kilonewtons. So force by area is 10 kilonewtons, that is 10,000 by 2823, that gives you 3.54 Newton per mm square, which is compression. We have seen it is a compressive force of 10 kilonewtons. It is pushing the middle portion. So if we see strain, that is change in length, that is delta L2 delta L2 is equal to P2 L2 by A2 into E. So P2 is 10 kilonewtons into L2 is 500 mm and area is 2827.43 mm square into 2 into 10 to the power of 5, that is modulus of velocity, PL by AE. We know delta L is equal to PL by AE. So delta L2 is P2 L2 A2 by A2 E2. But E2 is constant, E1, E2, E3 are same. So we are putting E here. So therefore we get compression of change in length is compression of 0.00884 mm. Very minute compression is there. Similarly, for the, if we see the third portion, we have straight away we can see on the right portion it is pushing so the force is pushing. Therefore, there should be some other equilibrium force which should be pushing the body. So here it is subjected to 60 kilonewtons compression. So L3 is 500, area is pi into 40 square by 4, that is 1256.64 mm square. It is subjected to 60 kilonewtons compression. Therefore, sigma 3, that is stress 3 is equal to P3 by A3, it is 60,000 by 1256.64, that is 47.74 Newton per mm square. Because the area is very small when compared to the first portion. First is 80, it is 40. So therefore the stress is very small when compared to the first, very higher when compared to the first portion. First portion it is only 7.96, that is almost 9. It is 47.74, and also load was 60 here. Load is 60 here. There it was 40. So we cannot simply say it is proportional to d square, because d is doubled from 80 to half, from 80 to 40. So the stress is not made. Stress is not 4 times the initial stress. That is, the sigma 3 is not equal to 4 sigma 1 because there is also difference in force here. So therefore we can say stress in the third portion is 47.74 Newton per mm square. Minus delta L3, that is we know it is subjected to compressive force, therefore there will be a compression. That compression is P3L3 by A3E. Then if we work it out, it is 0.119 mm. So the total elongation will be sigma L is equal to delta L1 plus delta L2 plus delta L3 depending upon their algebraic sign. So here delta 1 is 0.019, delta 2 is minus 0.884, 0.00884, and third one is minus 0.119. We get minus 0.108 mm as the total elongation. That means it is subjected to a compression of 0.108 mm. That is, if we measure the final length would be 1499.892 mm. Very minute changes. We may need some electronic instrument or something to find these changes. But according to our calculation, we have calculated that the change will be equal to 0.108 mm compression. That is what we have found out. So actually if we can measure that bar by some suitable scale, that difference will be as we got in the solution. So now let us go to some other concept called as lateral strain. That is, we know whenever there is some tensile force acting, there is some elongation along the length. That is, there is some linear elongation or linear compression if the force is compressive force. It is common experience that whenever we stretch a rubber band, the length will, as length increases, we observe that the cross-sectional area gets decreased. It is common observation. So everybody in our daily life, some day or the other, we might have stretched a rubber band. So initially, if it has some cross-sectional area, after stretching, that cross-sectional area gets reduced because due to increasing length. Similarly, if it is opposite, that is, if the that rubber band is compressed or some eraser, let us suppose some eraser is compressed, then the other lateral dimensions get enlarged. So we observe that whenever there is some linear strain, there is also correspondingly there will be some decrease in lateral dimensions. Let us say length, breadth and thickness, or LBD, let us say length, breadth and depth. So as length increases, breadth and depth they get decreased, or when length is decreased, the breadth and depth gets increased. So they get increased. So we can say this phenomenon was observed by Poisson, some mathematician or physicist, who has observed the elastic bodies. He observed that whenever there is linear increase or linear decrease or linear strain, there is also some lateral effect on the body. That lateral change, we call it as lateral strain. That is, the strains developed at right angles to the linear strains are lateral strains. That is, whenever there is increase in length, so change in length by original length gives the linear strain. Similarly, change in thickness by original thickness, change in depth by original depth, it will give the linear strain. So when there is extension in linear strain, there will be compression in lateral strains and vice versa. Here if you see this figure, if the if it is subjected to tensile stress or tensile forces, there will be increase in length, that L plus delta L will be there. Correspondingly, I am taking a plane figure. This height is getting decreased, that is depth is getting decreased. When it is L plus delta L, it is D minus delta D. We can observe that whenever linear strain is positive, the lateral strains are negative. So there is some law called as Poisson's law, which states that, similar to our Hooke's law, the lateral strain and linear strain are proportional within the elastic limit. That is, lateral strain by linear strain is equal to some constant. So if we add some force P, then corresponding to that force P, there will be some increase in length. Therefore, there is some strain, that is linear strain. Correspondingly, there will be some lateral strains. If we further add some more load, there will be another stress, another strain, correspondingly another lateral strain. So if we plot them, that line will give you a straight line. That is, lateral strain and linear strain if we plot, then we will get a straight line up to elastic limit. After that, they may not be proportional. The constant will not be there. That is, stress by strain will not be, lateral strain by linear strain will not be equal to constant. They will be different. So within the elastic limit, they are constant. Therefore, lateral strain by linear strain is equal to some constant that we call it as mu or 1 by m. Generally, it is denoted by mu or 1 by m. Many textbooks use 1 by m, but let us use mu, because many students, they get confused when the denominator is 1 by m. So 1 by m, they get confused and they will make it as 1 by m itself. So instead of that, let us use mu. The same, but for the Poisson's ratio, the lateral strain by linear strain, it can be denoted by 1 by m or mu. So it is easier to use mu instead of 1 by m. I have observed some mistakes even in good textbooks. That is, instead of 1 by m, they use m. So students get confused. Linear strain is always greater than lateral strain. So when denominator is greater than numerator, we will get a fraction, proper fraction. So therefore, the values generally for normal material, the mu range, the Poisson's ratio range is 0.25 to 0.33. They can never be greater than 1, not even 0.5. So always the range is almost 0.22 to 0.4 at the most, but generally it is 0.25 to 0.33. If we see some other concept here, we will see some other concept, that is, lateral strain by linear strain is mu. So lateral strain by linear strain, we denote it by epsilon. So lateral strain is equal to epsilon into mu. So lateral strain is epsilon into mu. Lateral strain is delta b by b or delta t by t. Both are lateral strains. Delta b by b is equal to minus epsilon into u, or delta t by t is equal to minus epsilon into u. Because we are considering the lateral strain as positive, that is, it is tensile stress is tensile load is pulling, therefore tensile stress and also tensile strain is developed. Automatically lateral strain will be compressed, lateral sides will be compressed, therefore these strains will be negative. So we can say delta B, that is change in thickness or change in breadth, is equal to B into lateral strain into Poisson's ratio, or T into lateral strain into the linear strain into Poisson's ratio. So to find the change in thickness or change in breadth, simply original breadth into linear strain into modulus of Poisson's ratio. So this is how we can find out delta B and delta D, that is change in thickness and change in breadth, that is lateral compression. Either laterally we have breadth and thickness, so change in thickness and change in breadth will be thickness into total thickness into epsilon, that is linear strain into Poisson's ratio. So this is how we calculate the. So let us go further some other concept called as volumetric strain. So this is a concept which deals with the change in volume by the original volume. So let us see this concept in the next class. So till now what we have seen, let us discuss. So we have seen in this class the more important topic of Poisson's ratio, that is it is the ratio between the lateral strain by linear strain. That is whenever there is a linear strain or linear elongation, when there is elongation only, then there will be strain. So whenever there is some force, there will be some stress. Whenever there is some stress, there will be some strain. Whenever there is some strain, there will be elongation. So these are all interdependent. So whenever there is some linear strain, there will be consequently some lateral strains also. So lateral strain by linear strain is Poisson's ratio, that we denote by mu or 1 by m. So generally their range from 0.25 to 0.33. That is when linear strain is 1 unit or 4 units, then the lateral strain will be 1 unit. So 1 by 4 or 0.25 or 1:3 ratio they will be. At the most 1:4 or 1:3 ratio. That is linear strain will be of 3 times or 4 times greater than the lateral strain. That is how we get the Poisson's ratio. So Poisson's ratio can never be more than 1, because always denominator will be greater, and also by experimenting on different materials, they have found out that the Poisson's ratio for all materials will be in the range of 0.25 to 0.3. So with this I conclude this session. Thank you for being with me. I hope this session is helpful to you, and hope let us meet some other time. Till then, thank you and goodbye.